We will now learn about the powerful brush palette in Illustrator. If you don't have a file open, you could always do File New and open up a file. It doesn't matter really the size, but I'm at 11 inches in width, 8.5 in height. 5 artboards, my usual thing. If you want to work in pixels, just change it to pixels, and then maybe you want to be 1920 in width by 1080 in height. But I'm going to keep it into inches, and I'm going to hit close because I already have a file up. So the brush palette, you can see I have my palettes up, layers, swatches, stroke, and my brush palettes up. Your palette does not look like this, but these are brushes I'm going to show you how to use from the libraries and to also create. So you'll be doing stuff like you see before you. I also have my color palette up, and at the very top I actually have lined up my pull-offs in a row over here, just doing that. All right, your brushes are run by this paintbrush tool. You don't have to click on it now, but that's a tool you're going to be using. For me, it's 5 from the top. All right, so what I will do is I will click in the upper area here on my brush palette, right, and click on New Brush. All right, so you have calligraphic brushes. That's the brushes up here at the very top. So if you like to draw, create logos, create all kinds of fancy stuff, even text, whatever, that's calligraphic brush. And you will create brushes usually, and it could be 30-degree angles, but horizontal, then 30-degree angle, 60-degree angle, 90, all the way around, so that you can use many brushes. Okay, so I have calligraphic brush clicked on, I click OK. Here's my calligraphic brush. You can use it a couple ways. One, I can pull these little anchor boxes like this. That's how I like to do it. Okay, and then I could, you have roundness, you can play with the numbers down here or angles down here. So you could type in numbers. I will keep my first one at 0, it's horizontal. And same with size, you can always just increase your sizes. It shows you to the right the different sizes. I'm going to basically leave that alone. That's all fine. I click OK, and you'll see it's right here in my calligraphic brush palette. I can always click on a brush and throw it out to a garbage can at the very bottom, just so you know. And right to the left, I could actually create a new brush that way, or actually select a brush and duplicate the brush. I'll click a new brush, calligraphic brush, 60, pull these in. Okay, so the other ones were correct, but they just weren't pulled in. All right, but see, I got my different brushes. So I can click on that brush, click on my brush tool, and I do like this. See how it's, I'm going to change the color of my stroke so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so if I'm on this one on horizontal, I drag horizontal, it's skinny. I drag this way, it is fat. I can also click on my stroke palette, see my stroke palette where it says weight. Maybe I'll make it skinnier this way, but you have to make sure you select it. So I selected it, I'll click on my stroke. This way I can individually control all my stuff. All right, so I'll click on the next one where I'm going to be on an angle. So I'll drag, make sure you're in the brush palette. I'll drag, so now drag up or whatever. I will hide my grid by hitting Command apostrophe so you can see what I'm doing. If I change the stroke color, nothing's selected, so it's kind of annoying that it deselects, but it allows you to draw quickly. But I can change the color. So I'll click on it. So I made this one red. And also, if I double click on the actual object, I can always edit it and change it and do whatever I want this way. I will click OK. You can always click on preview if you want to see what's going on. Click OK. And then you click here, it says apply to strokes. It's a stupid question, but just hit apply to strokes. Or you can leave it to strokes, but it's annoying. Okay, so that's the calligraphic brushes, all nice and lovely. All right, now I'm going to click on my menu at the top, new brush, or click on the icon near the bottom, near the garbage can. Notice you have duplicate brush and delete brush this way. All right, the rest of these menus you can just leave alone. New brush. Now I'll click on Bristle brush. Bristle brush, say that 3 times, is really great, especially if you're an artist. You can create watercolor looks or just beautiful backgrounds, drawings, whatever you want. So I click on Bristle brush, I click OK. This is a very powerful area. You get a choice of brushes. I go into shape. This is round point. I'll click on round blunt. You see how it changes here. You have sizes. So play with all the sliders. Play with length. What you see is what you get. Hit all these sliders any which way. I'll just play with size a little bit. Okay, but stiffness, paint opacity, bristle thickness. All right, so there's a wide range of stuff. I'll click OK, and you will see that they actually show up down here. I didn't see my palette move, and I'll just do it again, but but I'll do it this time from the icon at the bottom, new brush, bristle brush. I will click OK. All right, I will play with my sliders. I'll click on different points. Maybe I'll click on flat fan, play with the size a little bit, do whatever. And if I click OK, it says Bristle brush 3. I click OK. Yeah, it's showing up down here. Okay, so right up here is your Caligraphic. Here's your bristle brushes. All right, and it's, again, all you do is you go to brush tool. Even though I'm going to go to my pen tool, it should still work with any tool I want. Click on a bristle brush. All right, so and I love the pen tool. But you can see all these great things you can do with it. I will hit Command, click away, deselect, so my pen turns into something else. But this time I'll click on the paintbrush because it's very freestyle. Changing my stroke color. Again, it always deselects, so make sure you select it. Change your stroke color. Do whatever you want. I'm also going to go into View. I'm getting rid of Snap to Grid. I had it on before, so it'll be less snappy. So these are bristle brushes. Again, I'll go back to the paint tool, just click and drag. Right, so you can create some lovely designs from it. And I will, again, click on the brush. Whatever's lit up here, that's the brush you're using. Double click to get to options. So you can always double click on any of these tools to get to options. Play with whatever you want. I'll bring down the size. It says preview. Okay, so if you want both brushes to change, because I use bristle brush, then just do it this way. If you want individual, hit apply strokes, individual brushes to change, then you have to select a brush and use your stroke palette. All right, I'm going to do this just one last time. I'll click on a different bristle brush. Okay, I'm just going to draw something. I should have changed my stroke color ahead of time. Maybe the one to me, because they should fix that, make it be able to do it right away. But there's, again, different colors. Okay, so that's the bristle brush. All right, I will click back in the menu. I will go to new brush. All right, we have pattern brushes shortly. I will be going to that in my second section of creating brushes. Right now, an art brush, I'm going to ignore that. I hate that. Just draw a line and click on a brush, an object, and draw a line. It really doesn't do that much at the moment. I will hit that later. Scatter brush, you select an object, you drag it into your brush palette, and then you can draw a line and it'll scatter your work around. I don't like that. When I'm putting something in a certain place, I'm putting it in a certain place. I don't like pre-done scatter. So I will click there and cancel that out. Now I will go into Open Brush Library. Keep in mind, with any palette in Illustrator, you can save your brush library, .ai file, put it in a folder, right? I'm not going to save it. Right, and then you can open it up and open Brush Library. It's Other Library. Click on that, find your folder, click it. So you can have multi-palettes up in the same files, right? So I'm using 5 artboards, so that's great because I can do a lot of different work with the 5 artboards, but I also can bring in multi-palettes. It could be a swatch palette, any of these palettes, most of them work the same way. All right, so now at this point, I'm going to click on my menu. I will go into Open Brush Library. All right, the second part of my brush palette is where we create the brushes. All right, you have a huge area of brushes. I'm going to go into borders, decorative, go into anything you want, experiment with it. Here's Bristle brush again. right? I'll just click on that briefly. Bristle brush library, all right? So you have a library of brushes. I've already gone through it, so that's fine, right? But you just click on it and it adds your stuff in there. I will click on Open Brush Library, Borders, Decorative, whatever. Click on stuff. You see it goes into your main palette. You see it's going in down here. I have a ton of stuff in here, right? So it enters into your palette. If you click on it again, it doesn't duplicate it. But let's say I want to duplicate a pattern. Click on it, and then click on the page again. So what I'm going to do is I click on this object, I'm going to drag it to this page next to the garbage can, so now I have a duplicate. Because sometimes you want the same pattern, but you want it to go different ways. What is cool about this is I can click on one of my objects or anything or draw something, make a fairly big object. Mine's not big enough. I will hit Command minus. We'll see what happens. And you click on a pattern and you see you get stuff like that. And if you double click on the pattern that I just created, I'm going to get options. All right, so this is the repeating pattern that you're going to see. All right, you can always go to flip where you reverse it, right, or flip across, right? So it all depends what you've done. Notice, oh, it's pretty interesting what happens here. You'll notice you have an open box here. That signifies with these boxes up here. See this box here is this corner. This is all the straight lines going that way. Here it says, okay, at this corner here, we got to find something. Usually it is auto-centered, auto in between. Maybe you, if you're drawing such sharp lines, maybe you just add your own pattern in there separate from this. But I'm going to go into auto-centered because it's not really giving auto overlap. Maybe that works. It all depends what you want. All right, so flip across, flip along, keep that in mind. I've done this, so I just click OK, and now I'll hit apply to stroke. So there is my repeating object. Right, I'll click and drag a bigger object. Use any of these objects or draw something if you want. But I'll go back to my library, right, open brush library. There's arrows. I'm not going to hit them all. Hit them all. I'll give you some moments in class, but hit them all in your free time. So I will go into the arrows. Why not? Pattern arrows. Just see what's there. So you get this kind of stuff. So that you can see I have arrows. And I will go into my circle tool or any tool I want. I will make a big object. So I double click on my arrows. I don't really see an arrow at this moment with this object. I probably have to draw a straight line to do that. Here's a line tool, 3 from the top. Click on it, click on an arrow. Yeah, so there you go. Here's other arrows. Right, but I'm going to click on this first arrow here. If I double click on it, you will notice that they're also at the very top. In this case, it filled in all my boxes for me, right? So if it's not all filled in, then you fill it in. See, this one is this box, this one's that box. But you also have size at the top, right? So that's very important. All right, they're both reacting because they're both actually arrows, right? If I want to do one individually, just select it and change it in your stroke palette. I will draw a line, or I will use my pen tool, click and drag and draw a line. But I'm going to double click here where I had set this to U-shift, right? I had previously done it. So draw your line first, change your stroke to its color, and then, but of course have your pattern already set to U-shift, right? So U-shift is on, everything is great there. I will click OK, and now I should be able to click on my swatches and change my colors. All right, so that's what's good. I will give it a shot on my other brush. I'll go into my brush tool. All right, so I'm using different tools to create my brushes. I have snapped the grid off. I will click on the green one. Right, double click. It says method none, so I'm going to try to do it as I use my tool, which is supposed to work this way, even though my stroke was already set to the green color. I click OK. Nothing happens, so I'm going to draw the object. Well, it does when I continue to draw my objects. All right, so just keep that in mind. So that is creating patterns with the brush library. You have a ton of different brushes. Spend some time playing around with it. Remember that you can always go into other library and then open up other brush palettes in this file with, for me, 5 artboards. So that's very powerful. The next step is where we create our own brushes. So the ones you see here in my palette are the ones we are going to do. Actually, before I'm done, I'm going to double click on my pattern, and I will also click on tints and shades. Right, so now if I create with my brush or whatever, I'll click OK, apply to strokes. Right, so I'm drawing, but now I double click on my brush. I think it was the top blue one, but you can see it's working with my colors here. It's set to tints and shades. I have preview on. I'll change it to tints so you can see it is changing as I work. I'll change it to U shift. Things I hit tints. All right, so you always have that with colorization. Remember, flip along, flip across. Flip across might not work. That's up and down, but this is symmetrical there. Flip across is working because I'm going left to right. All right, so and changing size at the top, all nice. You have scale fixed, that's good, leave that alone. And again, if there's other boxes you want to change this to, which you don't, but you can, I clicked on there, I click OK, apply to strokes, and then it does something ridiculous like that. So anyway, now we will take our next step where we create the patterns ourselves.